Hello. I'm back from my first little podcast from on here, and although the previous one was a fairly cliche, I think is the word I'm looking for. It was a fairly cliche opinion. Unfortunately, I have another one for you, another very left-wing cliche opinion as well. I'd like to make it clear, or as clear as I can, that I'm not really left or right-wing. I'd say, if anything, I'm left-wing socially and economically, right-wing because the right-wing seem to do it better economically. But socially, I'd say I'm far more left-wing. Now, what I'm here to speak about today, and afterwards I'm just gonna probably go on a ramble for a while, is a question in America that's asked a lot. And I know, because in all seriousness, I spend more time on the internet, browsing the internet and things like that, than I do actually outside and speaking to people and going around with people. So I'm far more aware of America's troubles than my own country's troubles. And one of the biggest troubles, one of the biggest things I see, is the gun debate. The debate as to whether guns are or aren't okay. I mean, I admit it is a difficult question because it comes down to the fact that, well, I'd say yes, I am anti-gun. First of all, I just want to make it clear where I do stand with it. I stand with being anti-gun because, well, there's several reasons. I mean, there's something constantly goes around, which the American side like to say a lot, which is guns don't kill people, people kill people. But they of course seem to miss out the fact that, yes, whilst guns don't exclusively kill someone by themselves, I mean, that's not possible. Correct. You've got me there, I admit. But what they do is they offer a means to kill someone very easily. It is so accessible, and even when someone is willing to break the law, which people seem to be willing to do a lot more and more these days with the school shootings, but even when someone is willing to break the law, people are still lazy. Like, a lot of people are like, fuck, I'm so angry, I'm so fucking angry, I'm gonna go shoot up a school, And it's not rational, but it's a common thought. It's just like what's on the news right now. It's a horrible thing to do, and they see this is on the news, and they think we'll go do that. And the thing is, if they don't have a gun, or they have to go out and get a gun, which is difficult, if it were, then there would be no problem. They'd be like, I'm gonna go, oh, well, never mind. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, people are naturally lazy. People have always been naturally lazy. And the idea is that people won't go to the effort to rob someone of a $50 watch or a $100, like a credit card with $100 available to it, which will be difficult to get in anyway. They say that they can't be bothered to go out of their way to get a gun if they've done that. They just can't. Because a knife does just as well anyway. So, I mean, there's no real need for civilians to have guns. Like, good, hard-working, honest civilians. Because these good, hard-working, honest civilians aren't going to need to use them. Because the criminals, admittedly, some will get a hold of them. Of course they will. They always do. That happens in all countries. But it's far less accessible, and they go for the easiest option, which is a far less dangerous weapon, because it is a lot easier to disarm, which is a knife. I mean, someone has to be fairly talented with a knife to be able to actually do well at stabbing you, While with a gun, you can make someone flinch, they'll jump, they'll shoot you, they could be panicking, they could be scared, and they'll just shoot you. I mean, some 16-year-old boy or girl just picks up their dad's Glock from inside the drawer, which is irresponsible, and even gun advocates say that's irresponsible for them to leave it in the drawer, but they do. They pick it out from the drawer, they pick it up, and they take it outside, and they see someone with a $100 iPhone, they pull the gun up to them and they freak out, they panic, and they shoot them. And it's not rare. But with a knife, they'd have to come at you, and they'd be pretty shaken and pretty bad with it. Very nervous, not knowing what they were doing. Anyone that knew or has done any form of martial arts for a short period of time should know how to deal with something like that. Because even a strong person, when they're nervous, loses a lot of their strength. But without going off the topic, these gun advocates, I'm going to call them, they seem to think that someone will pull a gun on you and you'll be like, oh, I haven't got a gun, because it's like, well, criminals have no respect for the law anyway. And that may be true, and the thing is, for America right now, it may well be too late. There are too many guns in circulation, just like when they disarmed Russia. Most of the Russian nukes were never found and still are missing. Like weaponized nuclear devices that could destroy the world are everywhere at the moment. And we don't know where they are. They're just somewhere. And that's horrifying. But the point is that these people are still armed. Even though they're not supposed to be, there are still people that are armed. And yes, I admit that could be a serious problem, because it'll be difficult to actually get rid of that. To actually get rid of all the weapons. To take in all of the weapons. Because some people just say, well, I've lost it. And some people will have legitimately just not kept a hold of their weapon, just done something with it, because it was so casual for a period of time. Excuse me. They would have just gotten rid of them because it was because they could. It was just like, oh, do you want this? There's a bit of paperwork, but not much. And it'd be so difficult, so expensive to track them all down, pick them all up. And the thing is, it wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't, because of that. Because they've been treating it so simply, as though it was nothing, for so long. And that's a problem. That has caused a problem. And if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't be so much of an issue. It would be a very clear-cut, well, just stop giving them guns. But if you stop giving people guns, the people that want them illegally will be able to get hold of them fairly easily still now, because there are still weapons that would then be in circulation illegally. So, and of course, there'll be plenty of criminals that have 50 Glocks, which will then just auction off 40 of them for a massively high price. Not 50, but that was definitely an exaggeration. But a lot of weapons that they don't use, weapons that they don't need, and they'll auction them off. Of course they will. Why else would they keep them? Point is that, first of all, something that, because I've gone off the topic a bit, first of all, I'd like to say that statistics don't lie. Outright, there are hundreds of countries that do not have, that don't have weapons as easily accessible as in America. And there is far less, not necessarily violent crime, but dangerous, like seriously dangerous violent crime in these countries. And it is down to the weapons, because if you took away the guns, apart from, let's just say, if we're generous now, this isn't verifiable, I understand, and I am not making these numbers up off the top of my head, but I'll be honest now, don't take these as anything serious, because it's something that I'm trying to think up of for an example. But let's just say we leave 10%. This is the made-up number, 10%, which would be people that would just still have guns or use knives and hurt people seriously with them. If you get rid of about 90%, you'll actually find that America is about on par with the rest of the world. Not that much more violent. If you get rid of all gun crime, gang shootouts, armed robberies with guns, of course. Because when there's an armed robber with a knife, if someone owns a shop, fair enough, they can legally own a handgun as a means of defense. That's fair enough. I'm for that, because these people are most likely, assuming, of course, they've done it correctly, they've been through the correct means, and there was some sort of licensing, then there is now reason to believe that these people are responsible enough to hold a weapon, and they have good reason to. And, sorry, I'm running out of breath here, just give me 1 second. Sorry, okay. And yeah, So I believe that there should be some reasons to have them. Definitely, without doubt, there should be some, I'll say, excuses to have them. But I do not believe that they should be even bordering on how they are at the moment. Now, I'd very much love to have someone right now to argue against. I'd much rather have someone actually sitting here saying, no, you're wrong. Because I'd rather have someone do that than sit here and talk to myself. Because you can't do this without automatically building a straw man. Because you can't put forward an argument to put down an argument without creating that argument to whoever's listening. So, of course, to you, I have just created a straw man argument. Definitely. Of course I have. And which means that it's virtually invalid. You shouldn't really listen to what I say, is the moral of this story. But if you listen and look it up yourself, just do that for me. At least look up these things that I'm saying yourself. And if I'm wrong, I believe this is through my Facebook. So just message me on Facebook and tell me how I'm wrong. And honestly, I like to consider myself a sort of person that will, if you say you're wrong, I'll say, okay, all right, fair enough. Sorry, I didn't know. I thought that this was correct. But I don't know, if you have any issues with what I've said, or you think that I'm incorrect, and you've got good reason to think I'm incorrect, then feel free to tell me. Definitely feel free to tell me. Just one more quick point here. Police being armed. I've written this down, by the way. I've written these down. I don't agree with police being armed, but I understand that in the like all police, I think that there should be like Britain has a pretty good system for it, which is that we have armed police and we have police. It's like we have SWAT and unarmed, just normal police but without guns, and then SWAT, except not quite as good as SWAT. We use our special forces for SWAT, actually, really, don't we? If we really have to, but it's very important. But no, if there were less weapons, less guns for the American police force to have to deal with, then there would be far less police force with weapons, naturally. And I mean, I've never had a weapon. Oh, I'm sorry. I've never had a weapon thrown in my face. I admit, never, not once in my life, but I can imagine it is pretty intimidating, pretty unnerving. Oh, give me a minute.